my first guest this morning is Gerald, founder and director of the Trends Research Institute. He's a trends forecaster, publisher of the Trends Journal, and founder of the Trends Research Institute in 1980. He's based out of Kensington, New York. And one of my favorite things about him is that he's a black belt close combat practitioner and refers to himself as the martial artist of trend forecasting. And good morning, Gerald. It's good to have you on with us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I've been listening to you for many years. I consider you to be one of the most informed individuals in the media today, and it's a pleasure to have you on the Power Hour this morning. And I wanted to kind of start off this morning because I know you can pretty much carry the show on your own. I've listened to you do it many times. Can you go ahead and let us know what you think the forecasts for 2015 are going to be and what we in America should be prepared for? We've got about 4 minutes on this first segment, and we've got a long segment coming up after that.
Well, most people, of course, when you look at the polls of the last election, of which only 36% of the people went out, the major issue is the economy. Where's it going? What's going to happen? And when you look again at the turnout of the polls, you can see what most people believe, and they're right. It's going nowhere fast, and it's more of the same but worse. So on the reality level of it is, and once they stop pumping dough into the system, the economy starts going down. So our forecast is that this is not capitalism anymore. And people say, oh, there's a failure of capitalism. No, it's not. It's bankism. And that's one of our top trends. And that trend is being written, but we came up with the concept and where it's going. And Nomi Prins, who wrote that great book that's out there now, All the President's Bankers, is the person writing the story. 4 words killed capitalism. Too big to fail. Period, paragraph. In capitalism, no one's too big to fail. So that's where the economy is going. It's totally being manipulated, which is the second trend, the grand manipulation. Everything is manipulated, whether it's in banking, whether it's in the media, whether it's in politics. It's the grand manipulation. And we don't say this as throwing out a cheap concept, to get people riled up. The facts are in the actions, and the actions are these. They rigged the LIBOR rate. Yeah, that's right. That's what determines interest rates to the tune of over $700 trillion. Rigged. They caught the people. Yeah, but we'll only give them a fine because they're finer than we are. They never do any time. They only break our chops. And what else do they rig? Well, they rig the Forex market. Well, that's the market that $5.3 trillion a day worth of currency trading. And they rig gold. Everything is rigged. The media's rigged. You see the stories coming out with the CIA, all of this stuff, how they persuade the media what to do and how to do it and when to tell it and when not to tell it. So the grand manipulation, that's being written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who's the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. And I have to tell you, of everyone I listen to, watch, and know, there's no one with more geopolitical and economic insights than him from a place from the inside. Boy, he's some guy.
Yes.
And the other trends are you see going on with the oil prices. A lot of people want to say, there's a conspiracy to bring down Russia. It's only bringing down Russia. We have 20% of the junk bonds in the United States are energy-related, built on this whole fracking boom. You're going to see states taking a hit from North Dakota and places like Houston if these prices continue to stay down. They already stopped a pipeline going from North Dakota to Oklahoma. It was one of the most heavily traveled areas for fracking. They were going to put another line in. So this is hurting Venezuela, it's hurting Iran, it's hurting Nigeria, it's hurting a lot of countries.
Okay, Gerald, we're going to break real quick. We'll be right back from the break, and we'll continue with you when we come back. And again, this is Gerald Celente from Trends Forecast Journal. Stay tuned. He'll finish the rest of these trends when we get back from this break. Let me say something about you real quick, Gerald. You get a kick out of this. Every once in a while I'll be playing my iPad in the house, and I'll be listening to an interview or a review or a news talk show or whatever, And my wife's always saying to me, Ted, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. I don't want to hear anymore. And every time, Gerald, I'm playing an interview that you've been on, and she hears your voice, she goes, oh, that's Gerald Celente. Can you turn that up? I want to hear what he has to say.
Oh, how nice. Thank you.
Well, no, but it's true, though. I mean, you're so to the point, and you're so cutting edge with what you do that you're making an impact. And that's why I just feel privileged this morning to have you on the Power Hour. And, we have millions of listeners here, and I want you to be able to speak to them this morning. And I want to just kind of give you free reign. But it's just that you have such an exceptional delivery with what you do and how you basically tell the folks. Are you going to be able to stay with us, take a few phone calls this morning, or you got a tight timeline?
I think I could stay till about 9:20.
Okay, that'd be great.
That work for you?
That works great for me. As long as you want to stay, it's fine with me. If you want to give us a call this morning, you can give us a shout at 1-855-995-6923. That's 855-995-6923. That's Gerald Celente, a question, and a lot of you get to hear him on radio and TV talk shows, but you never get a chance to ask him a question. But I want to ask you a real quick question, Gerald, if I can. This constant rigging of the comics and the futures markets with the precious metals and all the naked shorts that they're doing that Paul Craig Robert talks about so much, when is that going to end?
Nothing is going to end until the people decide that they've had enough. It really goes back to the human spirit. I've been at this a lot of years, and if anyone expects the Republicans, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in this stuff. Really, I began my career right out of graduate school. I'm going back to 1970. I was running political campaigns in Westchester County, which was the richest county in the United States at the time. And they sent me up to Albany. I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. 23 years old. And I got there right away, and I saw what it looked like. And to me, the Republicans and the Democrats are no different than the Bloods and the Crips. And I don't say that sarcastically. How many more millions of people do they have to kill in the name of bringing freedom and democracy to another country? And how much more money do they have to steal of ours to do dirty deals with their friends? Like too big to fails. So nothing is going to change until the people change. It's kind of like Margaret Mead said. When enough people decide, then it changes. And I believe that the opportunity's never been better than now. Again, going back to the elections, and you're looking at how few people voted. I mean, if 36% of the people voted in a Russian election, every headline news, they can't stand who's running over there. But here it doesn't even make the news when I go back to the manipulation. And by the way, on May 2nd of this coming year, 2015, the mayor has given us permission to close down the streets here in Kingston, New York, at the most historic four corners. It's John and Crown Street, the only intersection where there's a pre-Revolutionary War stone building on each corner. And we're launching Occupy Peace. And Occupy Peace is built upon the foundation of what this nation was founded on, and to honor thy founding fathers, beginning with Washington. No foreign entanglements. Bring home the troops. Rebuild America. It's big news. Oh, they're all out there. Obama, Hagel, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, all shooting their mouth off about the great victory and what we've done in Afghanistan and how our combat mission has ended. Hey, where's the victory parade?
Yeah. And then it was
atrocity.
But what was interesting, Gerald, they had to hold the victory little thing under super tight security because they were afraid they're going to get shot. And the nuttiest thing about all of it is that, Afghan now is the primary supplier of heroin and opium in the world. 90% of the world's supply of heroin comes out of Afghanistan, and it wasn't like that until we had our big victory over there.
Yeah, you're 100% right. When the Taliban had it, there was virtually nothing coming out of there.
That's right. Now, what do you think about the GOP front-runner being? I know you're political atheist.
They were all nobodies to me, man.
But what do you think about Clinton and Bush leading the pack again?
Again, it's disgusting.
I know.
It's a shame. This is America? That we got these two people out there? That's it?
That's right.
Anyway, going back, we were talking about, I was talking about the oil prices. Mm-hmm. Well, one of our big trends is price war. It's not only oil prices that are down, it's copper, it's iron ore, it's corn. There's too much supply and not enough demand. You saw this holiday season, 70% off. When I was a kid, they would have a 50% sale, and that was after the holidays, and when nothing was left. There's too much product, not enough demand. It all ties together. It goes back to one of the first questions you asked me about the economy. The jobs stink. Real wages are down. Pew Research Center came out with a study a week ago, and they're showing that the gap between the rich and the poor is the widest ever in the United States. We're looking at median household income levels below 1999 levels. And it's not only in the U.S. Hey, they're having an election over there. They just failed again in Greece. The market's down 10%. They're going to hold a snap election. Gee, I thought when they brought in all those technocrats, stole all the people's money in the name of austerity measures, things were going to improve. There's a recession, there's a depression in Greece, a depression in Spain, a depression in Portugal, a recession in Italy. So what I'm saying, you have unemployment now in France is over 10%. What you're looking at is loads of supply and low demand. So price wars is going to be a big one.
Gerald, why do you think that's happened? Why are the people, are they just all broke? Is that why we're basically not buying anything anymore? Have we just gotten ourselves so far into debt that we're basically we no longer have any discretionary income?
Exactly. Again, you look at the jobs that are being created. Healthcare workers, I love that they call it hospitality sectors. Yeah, vacant beds in hotels and waitresses and bartenders.
That's right.
They're great. Those are nice jobs, when you're a kid. You're a bartender, waitress, you're going through. Because unlike in Europe, where waiters and bartenders make real wages, they don't get tipped. Here you have to get tipped. That's not a job, to consider for the rest of your life, particularly if you went to college. Now you got a degree, and what are you, $3 trillion worth of debt?
Yeah, we talked about it. What do you think about all the kids that are taking out all these student loans now, and only 80% of them, 80% aren't even using their degrees?
That's what I'm saying. You get degrees in worthlessness,
That's right.
and you can't do anything with them. Yeah, so it goes back. Everything's connected, and the criminality of it is not only that they're charging. My friend was up here to visit me. Two kids grew up together. He lives in Phoenix. He came to Kingston in the area. We were talking, but he went to Syracuse University, and this is back in the 60s, and he got a degree in engineering, a real bright guy. He's one of the top schools at the time. $2,000 a year, including room and board. And the same with me. $2,000.
It was cheap back then. I went to school back in the 70s, too. It was very inexpensive back then.
And so what you have now, you had people like the great liberals, the great Democrats, Republicans, Bidens and Clintons that pushed through these regulations and laws that now make it almost impossible for these kids to beat these heavy debt that they got out of college. They're essentially indentured servants. Could you imagine getting out of college with $80,000, $90,000 worth of debt? Your life is ruined.
What do you think about George Bush when he changed the bankruptcy laws? And back in the 70s, of course, they changed it, too, that you couldn't file bankruptcy on student loans. What do you think about that? When a person is financially destitute, they have to file bankruptcy, but the student loans are exempt.
I'm telling you, that came into play under Clinton.
That's right.
And Biden pushed that through when Bush came in.
That's right.
So those are the ones that did it. That's what I was saying. The great Democrats. They're the ones that made these people indentured servants. So nothing is going to change until the people change. And when enough people have had enough, then, look what's going on in Europe. You have new third parties coming out of nowhere.
That's right, especially Germany.
Nowhere. Sweden, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy. This is the future. It's not with the mob in control. We got a gang of 535 That's how many senators and congressmen telling 315 million people how to tie their shoes.
No, it's crazy. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, how do we wake the people up, Gerald? I mean, how do we do that? I mean, you're so effective, but how do we get the masses to listen to what's going on? How do we wake them up where they've put in such a state of learned helplessness now they can't be awakened?
Well, it's a critical mass. It's the 100th monkey. You know that story when after 100 monkeys did it in one island around Japan, an island that not even connected. They started doing it in that island. It's your show. It's what you're doing, what I'm doing. And when enough people do it, then it clicks. That's all it is.
Do you think the United States will be able to click before the United States basically is no longer the United States?
Here. That's why I didn't leave this country. People say, how come you didn't leave? Because I couldn't be me if I was born anywhere else. Like I say, my blood is Italian, but my heart's American. I couldn't be. This is the land of opportunity. Now they're trying to take it away from us. No, let them. I either love it or leave it. No, let them leave it. I love it. They're the ones that are ruining it.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing about it is if everybody left the United States, there won't be a United States left. I mean, that's how you have to look at it. I mean, it'll be gone. The United States will go into the ash heap of history. Now, I know that we've got a bunch of phone calls coming in for you. If Scott will take them off the board right now. Gerald, you going to be able to stay with me another break, or are we about done?
I can stay with you another break. I'll stay another break.
Okay, good.
Up to 9:30.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to break right now. We come back. I want Scott to go and take these phone calls that are coming in. Our boards are lit up with calls for Gerald Celente. So let's go ahead and take some phone calls. Author of the Trends Journal. One quick question I have for you, Gerald. Gold and silver right now, since they've shorted it, it's gotten so low in price again. Do you think this 30% or 40% that has come down now is the correction that's going to get, or is it a safe investment now, or would you recommend buying physical metal?
Well, I don't give investment advice. I'm a forecaster. We're forecasting. Gold has to us all along. When it's been around the 1,200 mark, we said it has a downside risk of about $100 to $150. But that's nothing for a downside risk as we see it for gold. I've been buying gold since 1978. And to me, gold, I don't trade it. I buy it and put it away. So to me, gold is my golden years. And as we did in the Trends Journal, one of the issues, bucks, bitcoins, or bullion. So why would I want to be in any of the other ones? Again, this is only a Ponzi scheme being kept up by cheap money flowing into the world economy. China just announced it to keep their bubble going from bursting. It's deflating already. They just announced a couple of $100 billion more dollars thrown into the system. You're going to see this year probably in the EU, they're going to come up with bond buying, but not only government but corporate buying. And you see in the States, you saw at the beginning of the month, the markets were taking a hit, and then they came back with, be patient. We're going to have patience, rather. We're not going to raise interest rates. Haven't they raised interest rates since 2006? Wow. So Gerald, at some point it's going to blow.
Gerald, we got a phone call from John in Texas. Go ahead, John in Texas. You got a question for Mr. Celente?
Yes, Mr. Celente. I have some property up in the Panama area, and I'm retired military. And I was trying to see what's your trends with the South American groups down there. Trying to figure this out.
Well, what I was talking about before with the lowering of oil prices, it's going to hit. It's hitting commodities across the board. So if you're in Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, it's going to be difficult times. There's not going to be an economic boom, so they're not going to be able to export their natural resources. So it's iffy. So for me, places. I was looking at Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, other areas. It's just not in my blood, but I don't think it's going to explode in the sense that there's going to be massive riots, except in places like Venezuela. So I think Panama, for what it is, and being that there's so much trade via the canal, I think it's going to have a level of stability that other places won't have.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling, John. Sandra in Tennessee, question for Mr. Celente.
Yes. Hi. What book would you guys recommend for paying back a student loan for people that are on Social Security and it's in collections also? What book?
Go ahead, Gerald.
That's not in my field. I really don't know.
Okay. Carol in Washington, you got a question for Mr. Celente. Go ahead, Carol in Washington.
Hello?
Yes, Carol, go ahead. You got a question for Mr. Celente. We're almost out of time. Go ahead.
Okay, you guys never talk about gold confiscation. We've done it in the past. I mean, they have.
No, I talk about it.
Okay. Well, Carol, thanks for calling. Carol, go ahead. Gerald, what do you think?
Yeah, I talk about it often. No, I don't think they'll do it this time. It's a different time. It's too spread out. People are hip to it because it happened before. So the smart people aren't leaving it in banks, and they're taking possession of it and putting it in places where the government weren't able to get it. And that's why you see a lot of it going offshore as well. I don't think they'll do it this time. It's too much out there. Too many people have it, and there would really be a fight against it. So I don't think it will happen. But again, I don't leave for me, I got burned already with MF Global. I was one of those people. So, and I believe they'll also call the bank holiday. Isn't that a nice word to steal your money?
Well, Gerald, if you stay another break, we could go.
No, I really have to run this time.
Gerald, thank you so much for being on with us this morning.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye-bye. We've got Ann in Ohio, and then a few other lines are open. So if you want to call in right now. We're going to be talking about all of it this morning, about the pot being sold in Colorado, whether that's being in the lawsuits that are taking place, what's going on, all the stuff that Gerald talked about. So let's go to Lauren in Ohio. Lauren, you want to talk about the Supreme Court?
Good morning. I want to tie together a couple of your topics that you were saying with this Supreme Court decision. First off, you need knowledge, not college. It's a miseducation and a misdirection. Remember when Gruber came out and said Americans were financially ignorant and that's how they passed Obamacare? Well, you're paying all your money to get ignorant. Whatever and the other thing you were talking about, I just want to say whatever you focus your attention on expands. What the mind thinks, the hands do. So when you're saying we need to not pay so much attention to the negative, I know that's what you're meaning. So for people who don't understand that you're not saying just ignore what's going on around you.
That's
you're
right.
You're saying that in your life every day, what they're doing isn't the point. You've got a job to do here, and that's what you need to be focused on. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court decision and when this all ends, it ends when we stop obeying lies. You got a couple of people in black robes. I call them criminals in suits. And in this case, it's criminals in robes. But I call them sissies. Here are the American ignorant, selfish, they're arrogant, ignorant, selfish Americans. The American ace is
Are they the girly men?
They're the girly men, honey, and they're obeying sissies. You're obeying sissies.
I like you, Lauren. You're preaching to the choir right now. Keep going.
Okay, but here's the thing. They're saying ignorance is no excuse of the law. Well, that's for them. That's for people who work for the government. It's their job to know it. What they're doing is just straight up lying to you, but they've been lying to your kids in schools, and now they believe the lies. So here's the solution. Obey God first. Keep your money in your pocket. Keep your children in your home, and boycott big business. U.S. government is the largest corporation in the world. And none of this stuff could be happening if we weren't doing what they said. So it does not pay to be ignorant. You are going to have to buck up and start. Prayer is not just a talk. It's a walk. So get your kids out of those schools. I love what you did with homeschooling your children. I'm doing the same.
Right.
And what a beautiful blessing that is. I really do like hearing you talk about these things. And I do like you talking about God because you can't get through this without the truth. So,
No, that's why I didn't mean to cut the one caller. The one caller who called earlier who was reading the scripture to me, I'm okay with that if we were doing a full Bible study, radio show. I just like to mention, but see, my here, and I'll tell you this right now, and I haven't told this to the audience yet, but since I really like you, Lauren, by the way, I like intelligent callers. Not that my callers aren't always intelligent, but I like some of them better than others. And here's what's interesting about this. My number one priority in my life, bar none, is Yahweh. God Almighty. Okay, my relationship with Jesus Christ, the Yahweh. That's it. That's it. That's number one. Number two is, and in fact, years ago, God spoke to me in a dream. My first language is perfect German. Someday I'll tell the audience what He told me in this perfect dream of perfect German, I guess you could say. And it's not what you think it would be. And that He wasn't out loud, but it was audible in the dream. Second is my relationship with my wife. And I tell my children, I say, look, kids, here's how it works. You guys are going to be gone, doing your own thing. And my wife and I, your mom and I, are going to be here without you guys. And so my relationship with her is priority over you guys. Now, you guys are number third on that list. And, of course, after that comes my career and my job and doing things like helping Joyce out on the radio show this morning. So that's how I look at life. And you were absolutely right, Lauren. Here's the thing. We have to be aware of the negative. That's okay. You can't pretend like it's not there. You can't be happy all the time and say it's never going to go bad, because bad things happen to good people. But here's what I've also learned. You can't be dwelling on the negative. It's kind of like this. When you're skiing downhill and you're snow skiing downhill, wherever you look is where you're going to go. So you got to kind of glance over, see what's going on, say, you know what? I understand what's going on. I'm going to tell as many people as I can about what's going on, but I'm going to stay focused on what I'm doing. I'm going to be here trying to help people doing the best I possibly can. But you're exactly right. We've got to take action on what we're doing. And that's why we decided to homeschool many, many years ago. And I told you the story last week when I was on. I had them in a private school. It was All Saints here in Central Florida. And they were putting up happy holiday signs instead of Merry Christmas. They're a Christian school. They're Episcopal. And I told them, I said, you do it again, guys. I'm not threatening you. I'm letting you know, though, that I'm going to pull the kids out. It's not happy holidays to me. It's Merry Christmas. It's about Jesus Christ's birthday, and that's what we're celebrating now, not about how much stuff we can buy and about the holiday season. And that's how I look at it. But what do you think about what I just said there, Lauren?
I think it's absolutely true, and I think it's good, because what happens is you've got a country of followers. They follow the stars. They're spectators. When they see these beautiful homeschool children succeeding, excelling, with joy in their hearts, and appreciating the service that they're here to do, they want some of that too. And that's what I'm saying. People will start withdrawing, and I'm talking about non-Christians. They'll start homeschooling too, just because they see the advantage of it, not so much that they want to serve God, even though in the productive activity of raising your own children upright in truth, they are serving God. But they'll do it because everybody else, or the people who are successful, are doing it. And so I'm trying to encourage people to do the right thing instead of, beat you with the Bible, do it or you'll die. Because the abundance that Christ has in store for you, if you'll just do things His way and be respectful of the truth. We're here to be productive and constructive, not to destroy and dismantle. And that's what's happening here because we've rejected the truth.
Well, it's true that you say that, because the Bible doesn't give us the 10 suggestions; it gives us the 10 commandments, and it's not that we have to be beaten with the 10 commandments, but we need to pay attention to it. These are principles the Word gives us. It's kind of like eating pork. The Old Testament tells us not to eat pork. If you look in the Biological Therapy, Volume 1, Number 2, 1983, by Professor Hans-Heinrich, the name of the article is called "The Adverse Influence of Pork Consumption on Health." He calls pork a homotoxin, a human being poison, that like 37 different diseases are transmitted from pigs into humans. Now, I'm not saying that. That's what the biological therapy is saying. In addition to that, God's Word says don't do it. And that's not a suggestion. That's something that He tells us to do. Now, it also tells us in Timothy that, basically we're to pray over it and eat it. But when He's talking about that, He's talking about praying over it and eating it because it's sanctified by the Word of God, or the Torah, and prayer. And the Torah in that time when the book of Timothy was being written was the Old Testament, was the 5 first books of Levitical law. Of course, we know that. But the point is, these are not suggestions that God gave us. And when we stood behind Christian principles, we stood behind the Torah and the Old Testament guidelines that God gave us, our country flourished and it prospered. When we left all that behind us and we started doing the things that the globalists wanted to do and all of this satanic nonsense that they got going on now, then the country starts to deteriorate from inside. And that's exactly what's happened to the United States. We've stopped raising little Americans. We've stopped raising them on the way the country was founded. What do you think about that, Lauren?
I think you're absolutely right. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there is freedom. And that's why Germany is so concerned with all these Islamics moving into their country. Because this is a lie. You're letting a lie lead you. And America's doing the same thing. We had better cut this out with all this illegal immigration and not doing anything about it. Obama, a criminal. The Attorney General, a criminal. I want to see some trials for treason, or I want to hear about how much you love your country. You don't live your life voting once every 2 years. You live it every day. Life happens every day. So every day it's, will I obey God this day? And that's it. We either do it or we lose it.
I asked my dad one time, I was talking to him about the United States and the deterioration of our culture. This is back in the 70s. My dad was born in 1901. I just sound young. I'm almost 60. My father was born in 1901. He was 54 when I was born. So my dad right now would be, over 100 years of age. And what's interesting about this, Dad and I were talking one time because he was born before World War I, saw World War I, saw World War II, saw the Great Depression, saw everything. And he said to me one time, he said, the problem with Americans today is they stopped raising little Americans. He said, this is exactly what happened with Rome. The reason Rome fell, Rome lost its values and its virtues and it stopped raising little Romans. And it was basically, they were bringing all these foreign people in and all the stuff that they were doing, and they were just on and on and on. But that's exactly right. When we stand firm in what we know to be the truth, we can stop this onslaught of globalism. We can stop this onslaught against our country. But we as Americans have to do exactly what you just said. We've got to pull our kids, if possible, out of the school system. We've got to stop letting them be indoctrinated into this satanic communist system that basically we call the homeschool system and the Common Core, and realize that we've got to stand firm with what we know to be the truth, Lauren.
Well, God bless you. Now I see why you're so smart. Mother from Germany and dad born in 1901. Wow. Wow. That is so cool.
Well, I'm just old school. My kids are always saying, Dad, you're just so old-fashioned. I'm like, I can't help it. I said, my dad's over 100 now if he was still alive. My mom would be over 100 this year. And I said, I can't help it. I was raised by people that basically had seen a lot and had done a lot. And it's just one of those things. That's how I was raised. I mean, my mom always taught me, you got to store a little bit of food. You got to store a little bit of water in case there's a storm and whatever, or a hurricane here in Florida. And plus, she'd already gone through all the stuff that happened in Germany with the massive shortages and the millions of Germans that died after World War II. After World War II. And, we could do another whole show on that. But, Lauren, I enjoyed this phone call. Thank you so much. I got to take another phone call. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, just remember there's nothing new under the sun.
That's what Ecclesiastes says. You're absolutely right. That's right. Let's talk to Dave in New York. Go ahead, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Dave, I hear you great, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just something she had mentioned or whatever. The book, The Final Jihad, that was written by Governor Keating's brother, the subtitle on that is When the Best of the Worst Finally Come for Us, which, of course, seems like it's going to be ISIS. How did they know 20 years, 30 years ahead of time that, all this is going to work out in order? What I really want to talk about was in June, I believe the Congress or Senate, they're going to vote on banning, certain speech on the Internet. And I'm wondering if that won't become sort of like the fairness doctrine where, which wasn't fair. But we'll only get one side. If they get rid of Drudge and people, like yourself, we're going to be in the Matrix without any reality.
It's true, Dave. That's why we always have the Bible. The problem is that they've so discounted the Bible and the Word of God. And they basically, I remember when I was a little kid, and I still can remember this. I was in second grade. I was like 7 years old. It was like 1962. And I had to memorize John 3:16, and they gave me a Bible in school for doing that. And then like the following year or so, they decided they were going to take Bible, the religion out of the schools and God out of the schools. And they did. God departed. Ichabod happened. And so now the Spirit has departed from our school systems. Now we have a generation of kids that we can't even control anymore without drugs. And we've got 10 million kids taking the drug Ritalin or Adderall and Concerta. They don't bother to tell anybody these are Schedule II drugs in the same category with morphine, opium, Percodan, and Demerol. I wrote a whole book on this, and what's crazy about it is a lot of these drugs are then combined with tricyclic antidepressants, which end up causing all of these kids basically, that you see in these school shootings, almost invariably every single one of them, including in Florida State a few weeks ago, was taking these tricyclic antidepressants, which basically in some cases make you want to go shoot people and then kill yourself. I mean, it's insanity. It's like we have a drug culture. And we're going to talk to John Rappaport tomorrow about that in depth. Okay, guys, listen to me for a second because, we're coming up to a break here in a minute. You got to stay tuned to, for the show tomorrow and next week because we're bringing on some of the top people in the world for this show for Joyce with the Power Hour. The people that I've listened to all of my, career here as far as this alternative media, the people that I think are the best of the best of the best. So it's really important that we keep Joyce's numbers up, that we continue to support her in the Power Hour Mall, and realize that, if it wasn't for Joyce doing this show all of those years ago and staying with it all of these years, I wouldn't be here right now, and you wouldn't be listening. And so hopefully you've learned a little bit this morning. But anything else you want to add to my comments there, Dave?
I'm not going to allow 3D goggles into my house for the kids.
I'm not letting them in either, Dave. In fact, I'm so funny, I don't even let the kids play with the iPads or the computers. And I just don't do it. I just tell them, say, guys, you don't need all that stuff. I didn't have all that stuff. That goes back to my 1901 daddy. And basically, I just don't see any point in it. I like the kids reading. I mean, my little daughter, she's 12 years old. She's absolutely brilliant. You can watch her if you want to, see what she can do. Savannah Brower, S-A-V-A-N-A-N-A-H, Brower, B-R-O-E-R, sings Silent Night, Holy Night. You can watch her on YouTube. She's got almost 10,000 views, and she sings the entire Silent Night, Holy Night in the original language of German, all 3 verses in front of almost 4,000 people. And you can watch her. That's what kids can do. That's what they're capable of doing when you don't give them all of this nonsense to take up all of their time and you allow them to expand their abilities without giving them all kinds of drugs and chemicals and fluoride and everything else into their little bodies. But you'll love the way she sings Silent Night, Holy Night. And it's still the holiday season, Christmas season, so we can do that. So basically, everybody listen to that. Dave, thank you so much for calling. Let me talk to Johnny in Missouri.
Hey, Ted.
Hey, Johnny. Good morning.
Good morning. Blessings.
You too, buddy. I call you blessed, Johnny. Go ahead.
I want to wish best wishes for you and all of our Power Hour team out here.
Oh, thank you. I wish the same thing for everybody listening this morning. I mean, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm glad you guys are all staying with me on a holiday week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My main subject was gold. Have we still got Gerald on the line?
Gerald's gone. He only gave me half an hour this morning. He's super busy. I mean, good grief. I mean, the fact that we were able to ask Gerald Celente questions for half an hour, that's pretty cool, dude. I mean, this guy, he's big time. And for him to come on the Power Hour with us is just a blessing. And I'm glad that we were able to get him on. But I could probably help you a little bit with that. But again, I don't do any kind of investment advice. But what do you want to ask me about gold there, Johnny?
Well, now, I had a email sent to me yesterday from Karen Hudis. Are you aware of Mrs. Hudis?
I am not.
Okay. She's a World Bank whistleblower that's exposing the corruption that's gone on some of these.
Is she the one who said that there's an interdimensional person or some type of person who's running the World Bank? Is she the one who said that? It's something strange like that.
Could be, yeah. I do believe she's part of the Light Worker Network.
Okay.
Which is a whole other subject.
That's right. But what's she have to say?
She made the comment that they discovered evidence that there's over 600,000 metric tons of gold available to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we only know about roughly 125,000 metric tons. So what's that going to do to the price of gold?
I don't know, Johnny. I'm not sure about her because I know she's back with the World Bank again. I'm not sure if she's just a plant and she's obfuscation and she's putting stories out there because I've never heard that. But I read that article she had written about that, and it's supposed to be down in the Philippines. And the thing about it is I've never seen that anywhere else from anyone else. And there was something that had been done with the Catholic Church of the Philippines and stuff many, many years ago when they've been hoarding it down there. But see, that's something they could always say if they're trying to push the prices of gold down lower to hold the United States currency from going into inflation. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea if any of that stuff is true. That's why I don't really report on stuff like that. I mean, every morning I get up like 3 hours before the show when I do the show, and I make sure I scan through all the stories that I read, even though they may be in a machine gun-like approach. I try to go ahead and make sure I clear them in my own mind to find that they're credible, what I think is good and bad. And that's why I haven't talked about what she has said. So she's had some interesting comments to make, but I don't know anything about the gold down in the Philippines and that 600,000 or 6,000 metric tons or whatever it is. I've not seen anything credible about that.
Yeah, that is an incredible amount, but it makes sense if you follow the gold that was being pilfered from the Russian Empire prior to World War I and during World War II.
Well, you know, what's interesting, I read a really good book this past week since we're talking about this, and it's on the Bank of International Settlements, and basically it's called The Tower of Basel. And I recommend that book. It's an excellent book, and it talks about how the gold was transferred from all of the countries in Europe when Hitler took control through the Bank of International Settlements, which actually was being controlled by the Deutsche Bundesbank, and actually buying all of the war supplies they needed through Hitler, how they actually funded the Hitler war machine. And then Jim Mars, who we'll also have on the show, he also wrote a book called The Fourth Reich, and he has a new book coming out. He talked about how German gold and the great theft of the German from the Nazis as far as the wealth of Europe. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But Johnny, thanks for calling up. At the top of the hour, we've got Ann Barnhart coming on with us. She's one of my favorite speakers in America today. Let me read you a little bit about her. Ann Barnhart is an American patriot. She's ferociously principled and utterly fearless. She is once a livestock and grain commodity broker. She released all of her clients because she lost confidence in the commodity and financial market to the fraud and the collapse of the global financial derivatives as far as with MF Global. She's an American patriot, and she's going to be coming on with us in just a few minutes. So everybody stay tuned. I want you to call up and ask her as many questions as you want. Give me a phone call right now. It's 855-995-6923. Get in the queue for her because it's going to be a fun hour with Ann. I hope she can stay with us the whole hour. It's 855-995-6923 for calls for Ann Barnhart. But right now we need to go to Wayne in Tennessee. Go ahead, Wayne. Wayne, you're with me.
Machine gun monologue this morning. That was very good. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne.
What I wanted to say was this. If you said yourself this morning that the average IQ in America is around the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, okay? And I know from just being alive for 62 years.
Well, we're the same age. We're good.
Well, people don't have quite the vocabulary, aristocracy, if you will, of people who in the radio business, they want to use a lot of different words instead of just plain old basic conversational words.
I apologize, Wayne. Have I done that?
No, you haven't. What I'm trying to do is
I try not to do that. I was a college professor for years, and I try not to do that.
Right. Well, when people get into verbal acrobatics, they lose the audience.
Good. I'm glad you tell me I didn't do it good.
Yeah, all these things that people, I've heard so many commentators and some guests get on there and they try to prove that they've studied dictionary. Well, that's okay, but if you've got an 8th grade education as an average understanding across this nation.
That's right.
Between 6th and 8th grade education, then you have to speak to people on those terms.
No, it's funny. You're exactly right. I remember Zig Ziglar. I always talk about Zig because he was such a good friend. And in fact, I told you guys before that I dedicated my first book to Zig. And Zig always told me that. He goes, Ted, when you speak, he goes, you got a lot of college degrees. You got to make sure that you make sure everybody can understand who doesn't have college degrees. He goes, because if you can't do that, then you're a poor communicator. That's what he told me. And he said, you got to make sure that everybody understands what you're saying. So that's what I was hoping you were calling to fuss at me, Wayne.
No. I love you. I love your commentary. I love your monologue, especially because you hit on points. You get to this point and get on to the next one. But people out there, if you will understand that if you're going to talk about something, talk about it like you're talking with your best friend, your old-time chum, your 8-year-old buddy all the way up, through your life.
Your fire chat.
Your plain language, and then your audience will grow. If you get into polysyllabic terms, people are going to lose you. They're just going to start looking off into the sunset, and what you said makes no difference. So keep it simple, keep it to the point, and hey, we all understand it.
Wayne, thanks so much for the positive feedback, buddy. Bill in Michigan, go ahead.
I hear Christians talking that, and I kind of profess to be a Christian, but I just wonder, you can't be a hypocrite and get in the kingdom of heaven. And if you don't love
we're almost out of time. Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead. We're almost out of time.
If you don't love your fellow man and hate the sin and love the sinner, then you're a hypocrite. So you got to love Stalin, Hitler, Reagan, all of them. I thank you very kindly.
Thanks, Bill, for calling. I probably got to pass on Hitler. Solid, but I do love Reagan. But we'll come back for the break with Ann Barnhart. We'll also take Annette from West Virginia. And again, give us a call.